If you were really good at something for a decade, I'm talking about you, not me. You were great at something for a decade. I watched you. You had a resume. You were good at something for a decade. And then you got a new boss and suddenly became really bad at that something. I'd be like, I don't know. I don't worry about him. I worry about the new boss. For 10 years, Russell Wilson was magic at the end of games. Last night, chaos, lost. It's hard for me not to blame the coach. Say it out loud. Russell Wilson with those weapons, can he get 5 yards? They average 6.8 yards a play. Or have a kicker who's never kicked a football more than 61 yards at sea level last night, kick a 64-yarder. Do you realize in the last 6 years, it's 6 years since Brandon McManus has hit a 61-yard, has hit a field goal longer than 55 yards, not in Denver, high elevation, or a dome. So that's 6 years since he's hit anything resembling that kick. Outdoors, away from Denver. And that to me, Nathaniel Hackett unraveled. First game as a coach, tough spot. I mean, Pete Carroll's seen Russell Wilson for a decade. He knows Russell Wilson. That'll be one of the tougher matchups for Russell Wilson. All the little ticks and habits and idiosyncratic things that Russell Wilson has. You know, Pete Carroll's a smart defensive coach. He's seen them all. Players are saying it's the loudest Seattle's ever been. It wasn't an easy environment. We said all week, 6.5-point spread. Denver's going to crush them. Well, I mean, you got to bake in the fact it's going to be really loud, anti-Russ. I'll get to the booing part later. But here's the thing that really bothered me. It wasn't just the end of the drive, which was epically bad. There was no urgency. I mean, if you're on a plane and the engine fails, I hope to God the pilot radios the tower and says, we're down to one engine. You got to know urgency. There's not a lot of moments in football games of I'm not talking panic. There's a big difference between panic and urgency. You know, panic is, you know, we've all had those situations in life. One of our kids is bleeding. The house is on fire. I'm talking urgency. Hey, we got 3.5 minutes, 3:40. This place is loud. We got to make some plays here. Let's not run it too much. Let's get Russ moving, Russ cooking, Russ rolling. They're running the ball here, running the ball to the middle of the line there, throwing the ball to the middle of the field here, not taking timeouts. So that's the beginning of the drive. There's no urgency. And then at the end of the drive, of all the options to waste all that time, you can't get the ball back. So if you miss the field goal, it's all over. Wouldn't you give yourself the option? 3rd and 14, 1:11 left. They do a swing pass for 9 yards. That's the last play they ran. And I was thinking about this morning driving in. Aaron Rodgers had Nathaniel Hackett the last 2 years as an offensive coordinator. Aaron Rodgers is a pretty smart guy, right? The last 2 years, the Green Bay Packers in playoff games have melted down in the fourth quarter with Nathaniel Hackett as their coordinator. Aaron Rodgers has been in chaos, over his skis, looked afraid. I can blame Aaron for all of it. And I'm not saying quarterbacks aren't more important than coaches. It's probably a 70-30 split, 60-40 split. Belichick, Brady, we've watched, right? Like, quarterback's more important than coaching, but coaching matters. Go ask Mac Jones if losing Josh McDaniels matters. Go ask Tua if having an offensive coach matters. Go ask Alex Smith in his career if Andy Reid mattered. Like, coaching matters. Aaron Rodgers, last 2 years, has melted down at home in crucial series. Russell Wilson was magic for 10 years. That was an absolute mess. And so the common denominator on this, if you're great for 10 years at something, you hire a new boss and you're lousy at it, I'm going to look at the boss. Well, what about Russell Wilson? What about him? I watched him for 10 years in Seattle. Pull touchdowns out of a hat. Make some of the most amazing throws. You got Peyton Manning screaming for a timeout. You got Troy Aikman screaming for a timeout. Did you watch the fans in the stands in Seattle? Wearing those awful green uniforms, looking up at the clock, fans got it. But the coach didn't get it? It's not that weird of a spot. There were 3 options here. The number one option was show some urgency first and go for it. That would have been me. I paid Russell Wilson $240 million. I brought him over here for moments like this. I didn't bring him over here for the second quarter. Teddy Bridgewater's good in the second quarter. Geno Smith last night was good in the first half. Mitch Trubisky's good in the first half. Trey Lance wasn't bad in the first quarter. You bring in Russell Wilson for that drive. That's the difference. That's the difference between the Bradys and Matt Ryans. It's the final drive. Matt Ryan's been an MVP. Matt Ryan's good in the second quarter. You notice it this weekend? How many of the average quarterbacks, Geno Smith, Trubisky, Trey Lance, they're good in the first half, right? Because the plays are scripted. Geno Smith looked great in the first half. You pay $242 million to Mahomes and Allen for the second half. Josh Allen wasn't great in the first half against the Rams. He was unbelievable in the second half. You pay for those moments, right? I don't get it. I don't understand it. And this is the NFL. The average game is decided by 4 points. That's the moment. So the first option you had was to sense urgency and go for it. Your second option, if you're Nathaniel Hackett, is, all right, let's not waste any time here. Let's try the field goal. I don't trust Russ. Let's try the field goal. But I'll have all my timeouts. And Geno hasn't done anything in the second half, so I'll go timeout, get the ball back with 35 seconds. The worst option is, let's waste all this time as Peyton Manning's doing this and Troy Aikman's doing that and Joe Buck's doing this and the Seattle fans waste all the time, miss the field goal, game over. That's the only thing you can't do. And they did it. That was a circus. But if you've been great at something for 10 years, and I've watched it, you hire a new boss and you're suddenly bad at something, I'm going to question the boss. I've seen you be great at it. Pete Carroll after the game. Yeah, I thought they were going to go for it. Of course. So did everybody. All right, so yesterday, a little panic. Dak Prescott's hurt. So here's something to think about, and I've been on this now for a while. Doctors and meteorologists. When you go to a doctor, and I've strangely been to too many doctors over the last 4 or 5 years, right? I work out every day. You think I wouldn't go to the doctor. I'm always at a doctor. Falling down, tripping over something, getting hurt skiing. Doctors always tell you, oh, this is going to take 12 weeks. And it always takes about 8 or 9, you're fine, right? Because the doctor doesn't want to say it'll be 8 weeks, and 13 weeks in, you're still bad. Then you think the doctor's a schmuck. You have a bad experience. You tell your friends, yeah, he said 8 weeks, 13. It was way worse than he said. So doctors, weather people do this all the time. Weather people, oh, they give storms names. Oh, it's going to be the worst storm of all time. It's a couple snowflakes. And you're thinking to yourself, why do you do that? Because the last thing a meteorologist wants is he says, it won't be much wind coming up today, and your roof blows off, and the TV station gets flooded by calls from angry people whose roofs blow off. So doctors and meteorologists tend to be protective, a little safe. And so when I heard yesterday, Dak 8 weeks, what did I say on the show yesterday? It'll be 5. He's 29 years old. Young athletes heal. Dak's not going to be out 8 weeks because of that. By the way, that same injury, old Drew Brees was out 5 weeks. And if you remember, the Saints went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater, so they didn't even need to bring him back. And they considered bringing him back in 4 weeks. But they went an extra week. Drew's back in 5. Dak Prescott's 29. You got really good doctors. Young athletes heal quickly. Doctors tend to play it safe and make the prognosis much longer. It's going to be okay. If you look at the Cowboys schedule, first of all, you're not getting Jimmy G. Mason Rudolph's not good enough to spend money on. There's no reason to spend money on Mason Rudolph. You're not going to get Jimmy G. He could be starting in 2 weeks if Trey Lance and the Niners can't beat Seattle. But if you look at their schedule, they're going to get their ears boxed in by the Bengals, but then they get the Giants and Washington. And Dak could be back for the Ram or the Eagle game. You're fine. Oh, the sky is falling. I got news for you. Dallas's sky wasn't very high to begin with. There's not much of a fall. This was a football team that got worse everywhere at weapons, O-line, pass rush, coach. I mean, you watch them, they look well coached against Tampa. So there's no reason to panic. You're not getting Garoppolo. I said it yesterday. Whenever I hear 6 to 8 weeks with a pro athlete, to me it's 5 to 6 weeks, sometimes sooner. Jerry Jones said today that it was originally thought to be 6 to 8 weeks. He says now he thinks it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks. I feel better about it now than we did Sunday night. No reason to panic. We told you yesterday Dak is a big, strong, young guy. He's going to heal really quickly. It's all going to be okay as the Cowboys can be, considering I don't like their coach, their O-line, their lack of weapons, and no Randy Gregory. Other than that, everything's fine. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.